Eyes in the sky, hundreds of satellites showing us the world like we've never seen it before. Bizarre patterns that seem to unleash a torrent of devastating weather.
There's no possible way these could be natural.
January 22nd, 2010. Meteorologists in Australia spot a bizarre disk of glowing rings on their satellite radar images. It's like nothing they've ever seen. A strange, giant white circle hanging over the city of Melbourne.
Within this sort of outer band, there was just lots of little dots, speckled areas.
When I first saw pictures of these spiral images, I thought to myself, there's no possible way these could be natural.
The disk spans an area of tens of thousands of square miles across southeast Australia, reaching out to the island of Tasmania off the south coast. Prior to the appearance of the white rings, there have been no storms or violent weather. Quite the opposite. The country is experiencing one of its longest droughts on record. The spiral mystifies Australia's meteorologists.
This sort of situation is quite abnormal. Something quite wrong is going on.
Now, before the rain started coming down today, people in North Alabama and really all over the state had their eyes on the Doppler radar yesterday.
And what they saw looked like rain, but people in Huntsville and Madison only saw sun and clouds. WVUA's Travis Luter joins us now in the studio. And Travis, while we don't have any confirmation yet, I think we've solved the mystery. Is that correct?
I believe we do. We don't have any official word, but I think we got a good idea because UA Huntsville researchers were determined to find an answer as to why it looked like a downpour was happening when it really wasn't. And here's how the events unfolded.
It actually looked like a very large thunderstorm. In fact, Doppler radar estimated precipitation out of this were over 8 inches in Madison.
And this now infamous radar blob was puzzling meteorologists in Huntsville because it should have been raining there, and it wasn't.
There was a lot of confusion and certainly a lot of speculation as to what on earth was happening that would cause something like this on radar when there wasn't any rain.
But researchers at UA Huntsville found out there was something falling from the sky. It just wasn't rain.
Here's basically what it looks like. It's a thin, feathery fiberglass type material. Here's it on a little bit of a black backdrop, so you can kind of get an idea about what it looks like.
It's suspected the substance is chaff, which possibly could have been launched at nearby Redstone Arsenal. It can be used to hide aircraft from being spotted on radar, but the mystery led to speculation.
There was a lot of discussion among the NWS offices in this part of the country, but even from all over the country, who were contacting us and offering speculation.
But some people took things a little too far with what they believe caused the commotion.
Some of the more outlandish things that we heard were aliens, the mothership. I think someone even posted a picture of the Starship Enterprise with some kind of cloaking device sitting over Redstone Arsenal.
Live long and prosper. Arsenal officials stayed hush about what may have happened, but offered a statement saying partly, as a matter of operational security policy, we do not offer details concerning the circumstances under which testing activities are performed. Further discussing specific measures and operational procedures could adversely affect the success of testing activities. But it seems this likely it was much ado about a little bit of fiberglass.
Interesting story, though.
Yes,
I guess now we know what Area 51 feels like.
Yes, exactly. And for us, I guess it was right there in the Tennessee Valley in Huntsville and Madison.
Thanks, Travis.
Thanks, Travis.
Okay, I've seen some weird things on radar before, but all this here is normal for this time of night. But what in the heck is this giving that strong of a signal? That is crazy. There's a few up here on a previous load that they were stronger, but this one's staying here. I don't know what in the world is doing that. It's really strange.
Continuing with a mystery on the radar. It occurred here in Indiana 2 nights in a row.
Yeah, it's an ugly blob. It appeared over Edinburgh and Columbus. It looks like a dangerous storm with clear skies all around it. It's unusual. Eyewitness News reporter Rich Van Wyk found out what it was and why we might see it again.
On 2 absolutely gorgeous days, nothing but blue skies, not a rain cloud in sight, yet live Doppler 13 radar and the National Weather Service both saw a dangerously nasty storm.
It starts in Edinburgh and then grows.
Yeah, it didn't. It did not rain here yesterday.
But radars saw the storm pop up from nowhere. It's right there.
Storm.
Big storm?
Yeah.
Bad storm?
Pretty good one.
Lasting 5 hours and stretching across 6 counties.
That didn't exist. There was no storm.
Right.
But it's on radar.
Right.
So what happened?
No clue.
The National Weather Service pegged the problem to Camp Atterbury, where troops are training. A public information officer explained that on both days, aircraft activated their electronic defensive systems, filling the air with something called chaff. The weather radar saw a storm that, if real, would have packed rain, probably damaging winds and possibly hail, sending people running for cover and sending pilots on detours.
There's going to be turbulence, could be some lightning. It looks like some sort of a thunderstorm is developing.
You don't want to fly through that?
Not on purpose, no.
The National Weather Service says it quickly realized the radar was wrong. But people living in small towns and rural areas, people who regularly check and depend on weather radar to keep themselves safe, had no way of knowing.
Does it bother you that something like this happens?
Yes, it does.
Because?
Because I would be expecting a storm if I saw something like that, and I would want to take precautions for it.
The National Guard Public Information Officer says they're taking corrective actions to prevent something like this from happening again. In the future, the training facility says it will notify radar watchers ahead of time so there's not any undue disruption or concern from them or the public.
Took a lot of us by surprise. So has this ever happened before?
Yes, the National Weather Service says they've seen it before, and that experience, in addition to satellite imagery and other resources, are among the reasons why they quickly knew the source of this radar blob. It was a malfunction in the system, so to speak. It wasn't real.
The blob, as we've been calling it all day.
All right. Thank you, Rich.
Alert weather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson.
Here's a look at our live Doppler radar tonight. No issues. Hopefully you've been out there taking advantage of the great weather on this Thursday evening. Wow, look at what is happening up here in West Tennessee. Yikes. I don't know, but maybe the aliens are invading right now. That is some crazy data. There is some interesting weather happening up there in West Tennessee.
Wait, let's get to the thing you were talking about on social media. I missed that.
So were you on social media at all yesterday evening, yesterday night?
I'm always on social media, but I didn't say anything about aliens.
There were people convinced last night that an alien invasion was happening in North Texas.
Where in North Texas?
Because of what the radar looked like last night.
Okay. Are we going to see it?
This is like my Twitter,
Wait, what
Facebook
is that?
just blew up yesterday night talking about, are aliens happening? Did we get a, alien invasion, that sort of thing? We're all here today, though, so I don't think Independence Day happened yesterday evening. But we got tweets like this. This is from Phillips. He's asking, what is happening with the radar? An alien invasion. You see kind of those green circles there? This one also from Chris asking, did the radar break? Well, no, it didn't break. Misty Lynn was asking, what are these rain circles on the radar? Also, the other side of this is I'm very impressed that so many people were checking out our radar, even though there was no rain. We had clear skies last night. So I went back and pulled the radar. This is what it looked like last night between about 8 to 10 o'clock last night. You see those circles from DFW area down between Waco and Austin, also in and around the San Antonio area. So no, there wasn't an alien invasion.
Of course, that means it's time for Ask Ellen, answering your weather questions. Today's question comes from Andy. He sent in this photo. He says, my wife spotted a number of rain clusters in near perfect circles on September 22nd. We noticed them again this week. So what causes this?
Hurricane Helene's path and behavior just the result of natural processes and climate patterns, or was it manipulated? The circular blue flashes seen in this video are frequency transmissions from the NEXRAD network of transmitter installations. All available science evidence makes clear that atmospheric frequency transmissions can and do have a repelling effect on air masses, especially if and when the air masses have been seeded with electrically conductive nanoparticles. The brighter the blue flash from a frequency transmission installation, the more pronounced and powerful the repelling effect on any air mass or storm in the vicinity will be. Where there are no blue flashes, there is no transmission, thus no repelling effect, thus no resistance for a migrating storm. Translation: a migrating storm will be hindered from moving toward frequency transmissions and will easily migrate in a direction with no transmissions. So again, I ask, was Hurricane Helene's path and behavior just an act of nature, or was it engineered? You decide.
Once we achieve this weather control, who is going to be the man who decides what kind of weather it's going to be?
I want to take you guys now down to Anna Maria Island down here off the west coast of Florida, out here in the Gulf of Mexico. This video footage was shared with me just a few days ago. I want to share it with you guys. Look at this bizarre pattern out here on the water along the coast of Florida. Video footage shared by Marcy from 9/14 of 2024. What in the world is going on here? And if you look real close, some of these lines that look very symmetrical, obviously, and these lines crisscrossing, creating nearly perfect squares that extend as far out as you can see. But notice some of the lines right here close to the viewer. You can see steam coming off of those lines. Are we sure that these are caused by weather patterns that are moving through the area? I don't know. That seems very, very unusual to have steam coming off some of these lines. It's almost as if these things have energy in them creating this steam. Look at that. You're going to see steam primarily over here on the right-hand side, but the steam, vapor, whatever you want to call it, is also visible out here. It's just not quite as visible because it's farther away. But notice the perfect grid or near perfect grid out here on the surface of the ocean. Here's another view of that vapor, steam, whatever you want to call it. You can see it out here too. It's on some of these lines, almost acting as if these things have energy in them, maybe a warm component and a cold component creating this vapor. I don't know. This is highly unusual. All of these are in different formats. I was just trying to pull forward as much of the grid as I could, and you can see it stretch out for many hundreds of yards, and it's very wide up here in the close proximity of the grid, the nearly perfect grid that's maintaining its position on the surface of the water. And the ocean water, as you well know, is always in a state of motion. How is it maintaining this perfect grid pattern, or nearly perfect grid pattern? Over here on the right, I'm going to zoom in on this vapor, this steam, whatever you want to call it, but it's some sort of water lifting up into the air, albeit small, but nevertheless, that looks like steam coming off the surface of some of these lines right here. Check that out. Isn't that wild? Supposedly, this is created by weather systems moving into the area, at times creating grids like you see right here on the surface of the water. You know, it almost makes you wonder if this isn't a side effect of something else, some sort of a frequency that we can't see, and the water is revealing this frequency that's in the air, showing up on the surface of the ocean, giving it the ability to stay intact for a long period of time, as it's a persistent frequency that's showing up on the surface of the ocean. How wild is that? We see grids in the sky every once in a while, like you see right here, photo sent in by Mickey, not sure of the location, but you can clearly tell this perfect square in the sky, or nearly perfect square, was created by contrails from airplanes flying in the sky that just so happened to form a nearly perfect, what looks like a grid or part of a grid in the daytime sky, actually evening sky, because you can see the moon over there. So we know this one's of intelligent origin from airplanes. What do we got going on here? That is super bizarre, strange, steaming grid off the west coast of Florida. Thank you, Marcy. Really appreciate that.
Well, it's a gray day at Perdido Pass, and look at the waves. It turns out I got a fascinating photo last week from Tiffany Horton. Her cousin, Deborah Williams, in Coden, captured this interesting picture on Coden Belt Road. It's something I've never seen before, a very unique pattern in the waves. I had to see it for myself, so I stopped by this weekend.
Slow down and survey your environment. On a glance, there's nothing unusual here. Or is there? Look eastward across Portersville Bay, and it's just tiny waves. At my feet, you see seashells at the seashore.
Coden, Alabama on a quiet summer day, just watching the waves, but look a little more closely. They're coming in from one direction on that side. From the other side, they're coming in from the other direction. Where they meet, they form a perfect grid. Those are called grid waves.
Off of Coden Belt Road, it's all about the shape of the land beneath the water. That's called bathymetry. When you look farther out, you might notice what seems to be a sandbar going away from the coast. It's acting like a natural barrier to focus the wave movement. The waves arrive from two different directions in the shallow water at the sandbar. Of course, the waves are generated by wind, so that plays a role too. Stop and look, and you might be amazed. It's simple symmetry. Sometimes you just have to get off the grid.
Always something fascinating to see on our shoreline. Now, here's a live view at Perdido Pass, and you can see how the waves are kind of impacted by that jetty that sticks out there. So you just have to really stop and look. Now, it turns out around the world, if there's a big storm out in the ocean on a coast, it creates a similar grid, but it's much higher waves, and it's known as cross seas.